first match on the cards is a meeting at the Etihad Stadium. Now, before I proceed, I should also mention that Anthony has actually written a piece about this. I think he titled it "The Lowdown." Those are the words he used ahead of this crunch match. But it really, really is. And it seems like every time before these two sides have to meet, Anthony, they find this amazing run of form. And there are only two teams I can think of, and I've said this on TV, that are able to notch up 10 wins, not 10 unbeaten, 10 wins or more in a row. That's Liverpool and Manchester City. So where do you stand on this? Momentum feels to me like it's a little bit more on Liverpool's side, but it's the Etihad Stadium we're talking about.
Yeah, you've just got to sit back and admire both teams. The amount of points they can accumulate is crazy. As you said, they go on 10-game runs without even conceding a goal sometimes. And they're good defensively, they're strong midfield, and they've got attacking talent. So, and also, as I said before, their benches now are so strong. Before, Liverpool might have been a bit weaker in that case, but now they can bring in Jota, or they can bring on maybe if Salah's been benched or Mane's been benched. There's so much rotation in terms of both squads. With Man City, you don't know who they're going to start. Will they start Mahrez? Will they start Sterling? Will Foden play as the false nine? So it's so exciting to see these two teams go head-to-head for the title. And he's also in the FA Cup and maybe in the Champions League as well. So
yeah,
it's going to be one to remember, I'm sure, come Sunday.
And for Guardiola, I mean, he's going up against two managers this week who are just synonymous with the success of their respective clubs. Klopp, obviously, at Liverpool. Let's not forget Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid. And there's a little piece about that on The Athletic, which was just come out, by the way. Jay, what do you expect from this match specifically? Because reflecting in the past, I've seen Liverpool just go at it straight from the off against Manchester City, playing with 4 up front, 2 in midfield and 4 at the back. And it seems to me that if they get off to a good start and they're able to find an early goal, that would probably be advantage for Liverpool. But if they're unable to find that early goal, I think City might win it.
It's so difficult to predict what's going to happen. You know, as we've all said, they're just both in simply phenomenal form. It feels like Liverpool have the edge a little bit because it was only at the end of December, the beginning of January, when Salah and Mane and Naby Keita were going off to the African Cup of Nations, and everybody's saying that the title was done. So it's not as if Manchester City have gone on a bad run of form since then, but it certainly feels like for Liverpool to even be in this position, that I feel like that should give Jurgen Klopp's team a psychological boost. It just depends, really, doesn't it? Who's going to show up on the day? Is it going to be Kevin De Bruyne with a little bit of magic? Is it going to be Mohamed Salah? I think Ruben Diaz misses the game for Manchester City, so that's potentially one area of weakness that Liverpool can target. But, Ant was kind of alluding to the options from the bench and things like that. And that's clearly certainly an area Liverpool have worked a lot on. What kind of made me laugh at the weekend was Trent Alexander-Arnold wasn't playing. Joe Gomez, normally a centre-back, slots in at right-back and he delivers a beautiful cross. So there's just talent all over the pitch. And, it's one of those games where I remember when they were fighting for the title a few years ago and it kind of came down to a VAR decision and it was, millimetres away from going in and it got disallowed. And it feels like something tiny like that will decide this game as well. One moment of somebody not concentrating and that could be the league title done.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the final game of the season. We have to remember there are other fixtures. So looking at the list, I mean, for City, they got Brighton and Watford at home. Then it's Leeds United away, Newcastle at home, West Ham away, Villa at home. And their match against Wolves doesn't actually have a date yet. But they're all eminently winnable games. Liverpool have a slightly tougher run. They got Manchester United and Everton at Anfield, and we know how strong they are at home. But don't forget, there was that draw against Everton a few seasons ago, which effectively handed the title to City because both teams didn't drop a point after that. But it was the fact they drew the Merseyside derby, which cost them the title. They've also got Newcastle away, Spurs at home, Villa and Saints away, and they finish up with Wolves at Anfield. So, Anthony, I mean, you have to say, Liverpool really need the victory here. On top of being just behind City and wanting to go ahead of them, their fixture list probably implies that they need the victory even more.
Yeah, I think I'd definitely favour City's fixture list over Liverpool's there. But what I will say is that so many teams have got something to play for this season. You've got the bottom teams who are trying to stay in the division. Then you've got the race for the top 4 and then obviously the title. So it's not like there's loads of teams who haven't got anything to play for with these last 8 games coming. So anything can happen, especially if you've got like a Burnley fighting for their lives. So even though City might have the better fixture list on paper, any game can bring out a different result.
But ultimately, it's prediction time. Now, bearing in mind, Liverpool are going for an unprecedented quadruple. Anthony, we don't know what's going to pan out in the other competitions, but who's going to win the Premier League title? What do you say?
I'm going to say City are going to pit Liverpool by maybe 2 or 3 points. And I think it'll be a draw on Sunday. 1-1 I'll go for.
1-1 this Sunday. Jay Harris, yourself?
This is one of the ones where do I go with the head or the heart? And I'd like to point out, as I say that, I don't support either of those teams, far from it. But my little brother supports Liverpool, so I feel almost a little bit like if I'd want either team to win the title, I'd prefer it to be Liverpool for him. But I think City probably, they just feel like such a relentless machine. And if I have time, I feel like one of the results of the season, if City do win it, will be when they beat Arsenal 2-1. That moment, that late Rodri winner just felt so seismic at the time. So that ability to just grind out wins out of nowhere, I think I'll go with my head on this occasion and say I expect City to win. And I think I might go with a 2-2 draw on Sunday.
Yeah, I was actually at that game against Arsenal. It was one of the final ones I did before I flew back to Malaysia. But that's a really good point you bring up because you said you don't support either team. Now, Anthony, at the end of segment 1, declared publicly with great love and admiration for Manchester United. Is that affecting your prediction for who's going to lift the title? Because I asked you this off air, I'm going to ask you again. Who would you rather prefer to win the title between the two sides?
I've got too many Liverpool supporting mates, so I'd rather the title stays in Manchester. So I'm back in the blue half of Manchester rather than Liverpool.
Never mind, off the perch and all of that, league titles.
Yeah, that's true as well. But it's got to be City. Guardiola can have one more title and then hopefully he goes.
Okay, perfect.